I don't usually talk like this, out loud, to no one in particular, but the house is quiet, and it feels like the quiet is getting bigger than me. My name is Daniel. I'm 79 years old. Some mornings I wake up and I have to remind myself of that, like the number is a coat I put on late in life. I thought I would be better at remembering the important things. Turns out I'm better at remembering what I never said. There's an apology that stayed with me longer than any job, any house, any holiday photograph. It never found its way out of me. It sat in my chest year after year, like something misplaced in a pocket I never checked. I was married once. Her name was Ruth. She had a way of standing in doorways, like she was already halfway into the next moment. I used to think she was impatient. Now I think she was tired. We were young when we met. Everyone is young when they think they have all the time. I worked long hours at the mill. I came home smelling like oil and dust, and she would wrinkle her nose, half joking, half worn down. I thought love meant showing up with a paycheck and a tired smile. She thought love meant being looked at. We had a small kitchen. Yellow curtains that she sewed herself. I remember her hands more than her face sometimes. Hands in a bowl of soapy water. Hands on my sleeve when she wanted me to listen. Hands folded when she gave up on trying. The first time I should have apologized was over something small. It always is. She wanted to go back to school. Just a few classes. Evening courses at the community college. She said she wanted to learn accounting, maybe get a job in an office where her back wouldn't ache at the end of the day. I laughed. Not cruelly, not loudly, just a small laugh, the kind you don't think matters. I said we didn't need that I was doing fine, that it was silly to chase something new at our age. We were 32. She didn't argue. She nodded once, like someone filing a document away, and she never brought it up again. That night I lay in bed and felt something heavy behind my ribs. I knew I had said the wrong thing. I knew I had shrunk something inside her. I thought about saying I was sorry, but I didn't. I told myself it would come up again. I told myself I'd make it up to her somehow, someday. I told myself it wasn't that serious. The days kept coming. Bills, groceries, Sunday dinners with her parents, the slow choreography of ordinary life. I waited for the right moment to apologize, and somehow the right moment never looked right. Then there were children, 2 boys, loud, restless, always hungry. She stayed home with them. I worked more. We became tired in different directions. She would try to talk to me in the evenings about the boys, about how lonely the house felt, about dreams. She had that faded when she woke up. I would nod, distracted by the television, by the newspaper, by the thought that I deserved quiet after working all day. I didn't think of it as neglect. I thought of it as life. The apology sat there unspoken, gathering dust like a piece of furniture no one uses. Years passed. Her hair went from brown to gray. My back started to bend. The boys left. One evening she sat across from me at the kitchen table, the yellow curtains long replaced by plain white blinds. She looked older than she should have, or maybe I just noticed for the first time. She said, "Do you ever think about the things we didn't do?" I said, "Like what?" She shrugged. "School, travel, conversations we stopped having." Her voice was gentle, but there was a finality in it that scared me. That was another moment I should have apologized, not just for the school thing, for the way I had been present without being there. But I stayed quiet. I was afraid that if I started apologizing, I wouldn't know where to stop. Silence felt safer. It usually does until it isn't. She got sick when she was 60. Nothing dramatic at first. Fatigue, tests, more tests, then a diagnosis that sounded clinical and distant until it wasn't. I sat beside a hospital bed, watching the machines breathe for her in small patient rhythms. She held my hand. Her grip was weaker than I remembered, but it was still warm. I thought, this is it. I'll say it now. I'll tell her I'm sorry for laughing. I'll tell her I'm sorry for not seeing her. I'll tell her I'm sorry for all the quiet places I left her in. But When she looked at me, I saw fear in her eyes, and I was afraid my apology would make her think she had wasted her life with me. I was afraid it would open a door neither of us had the strength to walk through. So I told her she was going to be fine. I told her the doctors were good. I told her we'd take a trip when she felt better. She smiled, thin and tired, and squeezed my hand. She never got better. The night she died, the hospital room was dim, the hallway quiet in that way hospitals are quiet when life is slipping out of a room. I leaned close to her ear. I wanted to say it. The words were there, lined up like strangers waiting for a bus. But her breathing was shallow, and I thought maybe she couldn't hear me. I thought maybe it would only disturb her. I thought maybe it was too late to matter, so I whispered goodbye instead. After the funeral, people told me she had been lucky. A good husband. A stable life. 2 sons who turned out decent. I nodded and accepted their version of our story. I didn't tell them about the apology that never found its way. I didn't tell them about the life she might have lived if I had been braver with my words. Sometimes I wonder if she knew, if she carried her own unsaid sentences the way I carried mine. The house feels different when you're the only one left to hear the echo of your thoughts. Every chair becomes a reminder of who is not sitting there. Every quiet moment becomes a conversation that never happened. I still see her in that doorway, half turned toward something I never followed, and I still hear myself laughing, thinking it didn't matter. It mattered. I just learned that too late. After she was gone, I started noticing the small things she used to do, the way she folded towels, even when no one would see them, the way she turned the radio down when she thought I was asleep, the way she kept the porch light on even after the boys moved out, like someone might still find their way home. I found her notebooks in a box under the bed, lists of groceries, recipes she never tried, and a thin folder with brochures from that community college. The dates were decades old. She had kept them long after I had forgotten the conversation. I sat on the bedroom floor with those papers in my hands and felt something inside me collapse slowly, quietly, not like a dramatic breaking, more like a wall that had been leaning for years finally giving up. I tried to imagine her sitting in a classroom, learning something new, meeting people who didn't know her as my wife or as the boy's mother. Just as herself, I realized I had never really asked her who she was when she wasn't orbiting around me. The apology came then, heavy and useless. It filled my mouth in an empty room where the only answer was the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of a clock she had picked out. I said her name out loud, Ruth. It sounded strange, like calling someone who had already left the building. I'm not sure why I was so afraid to apologize when it mattered. Maybe I thought it would change how she saw me. Maybe I thought it would make me smaller. What I didn't understand is that silence changes things too. It changes them slowly, invisibly, until one day you realize you've been living in a different life than the one you thought you were building. My sons call sometimes. They ask if I'm eating, if I need anything. They talk about their children, their jobs, the weather. I hear Ruth in their voices sometimes. A tone, a pause, a laugh that lands softly and disappears. They don't ask about her much anymore. People move forward. I seem to stay where things stopped. At night, I sit in the living room and look at the chair she used to sit in. It's just furniture, but it feels occupied by everything I never said. I imagine her sitting there, waiting for me to notice her, to choose her, to tell her I was wrong. I imagine telling her I was scared, that I didn't know how to be the man she needed. I imagine her listening, maybe forgiving me, maybe not. But imagination is a poor substitute for courage. I used to think apologies were for dramatic moments, big betrayals, loud arguments. I didn't realize how much damage can be done quietly, with ordinary days and casual dismissals. She never yelled at me. She never packed a bag and left. She just slowly became quieter, and I mistook that for peace. The truth arrived when there was no one left to hear it. Now, when I think of her, I don't think of the fights or the holidays or the milestones. I think of that small laugh in the kitchen. I think of her hands in soapy water. I think of a folder of brochures kept like a secret life that never happened. And I think of the apology that stayed inside me until it turned into something heavy and permanent.